1 month of football down, 5 more to go. Welcome to week 5 of the 2024 NFL season, where today we will be doing a preview, breakdown, and predictions of all of the matches for the week. But before then, quickly highlighting week 4, things were a bit more tame compared to week 3, with a couple of great games here and there, a couple of interesting blowouts, but overall, your boy was able to go from 7-9 in week 3 to 10-6 in week 4, so some improvement, which is cool. Hopefully we can maintain that here in week 5. Let's dive straight into the action. Kicking off week 5 on Thursday night is another interesting NFC South divisional battle between the Bucs and the Falcons. Both teams coming off of a pretty big high last week. The Falcons were able to squeak out a crazy game against the Saints, while the Bucs blew out the Eagles for most of the game, and Baker Mayfield looked incredible after a down week the week before. Like always with the NFC South, this one is a toss-up. The Falcons and Saints played each other extremely close in 2023, and with the team still being pretty similar, I'd expect more of the same this time around. It feels like a 50-50. It really does depend on the day. Do you prefer the Falcons being at home in the arguably higher upside of the team? Or do you like the Bucs, who have looked more consistent so far, who have shown more explosiveness on offense? I, for one, prefer what the Buccaneers are doing right now, though. I believe that their offense just shows more consistency out there. They've been the more consistent team overall. They've beaten the Lions and the Eagles. They had one bad week against the Broncos, but aside from that, have looked very, very good so far. The Falcons, it really does depend on the week with them. Sometimes they look amazing. We see them pull off upsets. The others, they're just shaky at best, and I think what they showed us against the Saints is a prime example of it. They won the game, yes, but it definitely was not because of their offense. It was not a great day for them moving the football downfield, and they mostly capitalized on the mistakes of the Saints, something that I don't think the Bucs will do. Their execution has been better than New Orleans overall this year in big games, and I expect the Buccaneers to come out with this W. The Falcons' defense is decent, but they usually give up a decent amount of points, and I think if it comes down to a shootout, this game is going in favor of Tampa Bay. If Atlanta can limit their points, I think the game could go to them, but I don't know if I trust them to do that right now with how good Baker Mayfield looks, so I'll go with Tampa Bay. As for Sunday, we're starting off across the pond, so to speak, going to London. The Vikings and the Jets are playing. Big game right here. Aaron Rodgers once again is playing one of his former rivals of the NFC North, while Sam Darnold is taking on the team that drafted him. There is a chance for some major revenge out of him with how good he has looked, especially over the first handful of weeks. This is a very exciting match, and genuinely, I'm a bit torn on who to pick. The Jets haven't looked all that great, yes. The Vikings have been arguably the best team in the NFC, but you can never count out this Jets team. You can never count out Aaron Rodgers. That defense is good. Like I said in previous weeks, I think over time you will see this Jets team play a lot better, but there is questions on Aaron Rodgers' health. Yes, maybe by the time we reach Sunday, he'll be fine and good to go, but he is a lot older now. It could be harder for him to heal up, so he may be a bit hobbled out there. And against that vicious Vikings defense, I don't know if he's going to hold on. He's a lot older than he used to be. If this was a younger Rodgers, I'd have more confidence. I've seen him play on like a bum ankle and do great in these scenarios, but he's just not the same guy. And with how good the Vikings look right now, I don't want to go against them. The Sam Darnold revenge game sounds too good to pass up on, so I'm going to pick the Vikings to move up to 5-0. I feel like in the NFC North, the Vikings were usually the team to give Rodgers a lot of trouble in his career, and I think it will continue here, especially with that vicious defense of Brian Flores. And if we're being real for a second, the Vikings just have looked like the better team. The Jets have only played like one solid contest this year against the Patriots. Other than that, kind of shaky even in their W's, while the Vikings overall have just been cruising. They've now beaten multiple top teams consecutively, and there's just no way you can go against them with how hot they are right now. For the 1 p.m. contest, we're starting off with the Carolina Panthers versus the Chicago Bears. The Panthers have continued to show lots of life since switching to Andy Dalton, even being apparent in that loss to the Bengals, still putting up some good points in that contest. And they're playing a Bears team that squeaked out their second win of the year, this time against the Rams. Caleb Williams even tossed a touchdown in there, didn't make a lot of mistakes. Definitely looked better compared to previous weeks. I could see this game being pretty tight. Andy Dalton has uplifted this Panthers team so much, but that Bears defense is pretty vicious, and they may be able to limit the number of points that are put up on the board. And if they're successful with that, they may just come away with this dub. However, I'm actually going to go with the Carolina Panthers to win this game on the road. Andy Dalton almost was able to win that shootout against the Bengals. They just came up short, but again, he looked good. And just knowing the Bears offense and how stagnant it has looked, I feel like this is a bad matchup for them. Whenever they play those high-power offenses, I feel like you can expect them to lose until Caleb and the offense figures their stuff out. If it comes down to a shootout, who's more likely to make that first big mistake? The veteran, or Caleb, who has shown a lot of weaknesses as a rookie? It seems pretty clear to me, although I would not be surprised if the Bears win this game just because of their defense alone. Moving on to an AFC North divisional battle, the Bengals are playing the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals are currently in desperation mode and they cannot afford to fall to 1-4, otherwise their season is already over most likely, and they're playing a Ravens team that is extremely tough. They also got off to a rough start. They were 0-2, but since then they have looked so much better. I mean, we just saw them in their home building decimate the Bills last weekend. It was not even close. That defense was rolling, and more importantly, they just seem to be moving the ball better on offense. Both with the running game and the passing attack, it's just there right now, and I'm a little concerned about the Bengals' safety in that situation. Their defense has been anything but stellar so far. They've been giving up a lot of points ever since week 2. I mean, we even saw them give up 38 to the Commanders against a rookie, and against a Ravens team that is rolling as much as they are right now. I don't know if the Bengals will be able to keep up. Now, history tells us at bare minimum this should be a pretty interesting game. Usually Ravens and Bengals have some very tight and interesting matches, and I think just knowing that the Ravens defense has been dotted up the way it has passing-wise, that Joe Burrow could keep his team in this match. It's a must-win game. They're going to play with a lot of desperation, but I see them coming up short. I think the Ravens are just the more complete team. I trust their defense to get the appropriate stops, and for Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson to run out the clock and win a close game. It's not going to be easy, but the Ravens right now feel like the superior team, so I'll roll with them. Then we have another divisional matchup, this time between the Patriots and the lowly Dolphins. The Dolphins are in the worst state possible right now. They're down Tua. Their offense looks garbage. They just lost to Mayo Man and the Titans. Even if Skylar Thompson comes back, their offense still probably won't be anything special. They just can't move the ball downfield without Tua. Skylar Thompson, Brett Hundley, they're just not going to get the job done. If they can't even play well against the Titans, I don't see how they have any chance against the Patriots. The Pats may not be a very good team, but they are competent. They're well coached. They've been competitive in multiple weeks so far, and they're probably going to get this dub. All it takes is some decent quarterback play from Jacoby Brissett, and that'll be all it takes, because it's hard to envision this Dolphins team scoring any more than like 13 points maximum. Just knowing how much they suck, how much they're being held back by QB, give me the Pats all day long, without question, and they probably cover the spread. But how about the Cleveland Browns taking on the Washington Commanders? A tale of two different teams, huh? The Browns look like complete and utter trash. They can't execute no matter how hard they try. Deshaun Watson, the only time he can make a good play is when it's off of a penalty, seemingly. And they're playing a Commanders team that is red hot. Jaden Daniels is him. Clearly, this offense is on a roll, and I don't think a Browns team that can't move the ball at all is going to be able to stop something like that. I've seen them stomp the freaking Bengals defense and the Cardinals in back-to-back weeks. They're putting up some insane points. There's been some amazing efficiency with the ball, and they're showing me that, yes, this is sustainable for them. Jaden Daniels is accurate. He's making the right choices, and this Browns team is not special. We've seen them lose to the Giants, for crying out loud. This Commanders team is going to march into their own building, and they're going to beat the Browns. Maybe they don't score as much as we're used to seeing, because the Browns defense definitely is something you can't joke about, but I can't trust the Browns to match them with the points, even so. The Commanders have so many ways they can beat you with the passing attack, with the run game between Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson, and Austin Eckler. There's too many weapons on the side of Washington. They're playing too good to go against right now, so we take them all day. In the second to last 1 p.m. slot, the Jaguars at home are taking on the Colts in a AFC South divisional battle. Pretty weird situation we're in, huh? The Jaguars are currently 0-4. It already feels like their season is over, but it's so hard to imagine them going to 0-5 just knowing what they've been the last handful of years. It seems so weird to know there is a realistic situation where they go down to that record, especially because they're playing a Colts team that is not only a divisional rival, but feel like a bit of a wild card potentially if there's no Anthony Richardson. Now you have Joe Flacco coming in, who provides a much different type of play style. And despite playing that horrible game in the playoffs last year and missing these first few weeks watching Anthony Richardson play, he came into that Steelers game impromptu and he looked fine out there. He made some good passes and they put up a ton of points. Yes, Joe Flacco does have a pretty long history with the Steelers. He knows them and Mike Tomlin's system very well at this point in his career, but he still did drop 27 against arguably the best defense in the league, and that's something you have to acknowledge and respect. And regardless of who's starting at quarterback for the Colts in Week 5, that just may give them an advantage over the Jaguars, and I'd argue most people are going to favor them even on the road. In spite of all that though, I feel obligated to pick the Jaguars to win this game. Kind of like with last week, it's one of those gut feelings where it shouldn't make sense, it shouldn't happen, but the universe is gonna make it happen anyway. Like I said earlier, it doesn't sit right with me. The Jaguars starting their season 0-5 doesn't make any sense. They are clearly not a good football team this year, but there's too much talent for them to start off that badly. Surely they're going to get a win, especially against a team that they're familiar with. The Jags showed me some major signs of life in that Texans game, and if it weren't for some poor execution down the stretch, they probably win this game. In fact, you could argue they could be 3-1 right now if it weren't for some poor execution. They've lost 3 games by 1 score. And this just might be the right situation for it to happen. It feels like a major trap game for this Indy team. They've won 2 straight. They're playing an 0-4 divisional rival. What would make more sense, well, I guess I should say less sense, than for them to go out there and lose when all the signs are indicating that they will win? Feels exactly like that Bears-Rams game last week, so I'll go with the Jags in a stunning upset. Speaking of AFC South teams, the Bills are traveling to Houston to play the Texans. This is another big one. 2 AFC powerhouses, 2 of the best teams in that conference going head-to-head. Josh Allen versus CJ Stroud. This could be a banger. After what I witnessed in Week 4, I am very concerned about the Bills. They were finally challenged by an excellent team, and they got smacked around like they were nothing. And they're playing a Texans team that has been challenged basically every single week. They've already been humbled by the Vikings, and other than that, they've been winning the really close games. The Bills have only actually been in one close matchup, so this might actually favor the Texans in a way. In my opinion, they are the more complete team. And on top of it all, that Buffalo secondary is not one that I'm all that impressed by. I think we could see CJ Stroud and the Texans go out there and put up a ton of yards and make this a shootout of sorts. However, this is something that I don't think Buffalo minds all that much. We've seen them play well in these exact types of scenarios. They put up a bunch of points this season of their own outside of that Baltimore game. Now, it's going to depend on how they kind of respond to this adversity, if you will. This Baltimore game was a serious wake-up call. It was a slap in the face after they were rolling in the first 3 weeks, and I'd like to see if they can recover or not. The Bills of old, if you go back to last year, would usually slip up and lose 2 or 3 games in a row after getting stunned like that. But there has been a lot of change with Buffalo this year. We've seen it happen with their roster. They've played differently. They've felt differently as a team with their attitude. And I get the feeling that may pour into this as well, where they respond better to adversity. And I actually think the Bills are going to go into Houston and get a win against a very tough team. In my opinion, they've been taking advantage of other teams having some severe execution issues. I mean, they were down for a lot of that matchup against the Jaguars. It took some mistakes on their part for them to get that game-winning drive and come back from behind to pull out a close W against one of the worst teams in the league so far. And if you go back to the week against the Bears, they weren't all that impressive in that one. It just hasn't been totally clicking the way that you'd hope it would for this Texans team. And while I don't love the Bills secondary, I could also say the same for the Texans. They've been torched on more than one occasion, and just knowing that the Bills are coming off a tough loss, Josh Allen should go out there and look a lot better. He's been up and down so far with his performances. He's overdue for a big one, and I believe he's going to outduel CJ Stroud in a really tight matchup. Moving on to the 4 o'clock slate. First, we have the Raiders and the Broncos down in the AFC West. The Broncos are shocking the world right now, winning their last 2 matchups. And I mean, damn, you beat Tampa and the Jets, 2 legit teams, mind you, and you held them combined to under 20 points. That defense is nuts, and clearly it is capable of keeping them in any game, regardless of how good the opponent is. And now you're playing the Raiders, who are obviously a couple of steps below the Jets or the Buccaneers offensively. There's another world where the Broncos can squeak out a tough W just because their opponent can't move the damn ball downfield. Sean Payton and that defense, they have something special going on over there. The thing is, though, I think the Raiders are actually much more equipped to deal with a team like the Broncos than the Jets or the Bucs were, who aren't used to playing those randomly sloppy games. A lot of the Raiders games this season have gone that way, where it's been ugly in either a win or a loss, and they've had to just keep fighting and grinding. They're much more experienced in these scenarios, and the Raiders are absolutely the better football team. If you look back historically, they've gotten the best of the Broncos many times since 2019. They've won almost every contest with the exception of one going back to that year. The Sean Payton-led Broncos have not beaten the Raiders a single time. They own that guy, and I think it continues here. I am picking the Raiders to win this game, and it's for the simple fact that the way the Broncos are playing is not sustainable. You cannot expect to go out there and continue to put teams under 10 points in a contest. You can't do that over and over again, and I think the Raiders are going to make sure of that. They're a lot more familiar with this opponent, they're going to put up some more points, and I don't trust in Bo Nix in that offense to match. They've only had like one solid outing so far this season when it comes to actually moving the ball downfield. That Jets game, they barely won despite how great their defense looked. The Raiders are going to put them in their place and win this football game. Again, I'm expecting it to be close and sloppy, but the Raiders know how to deal with these situations. That has been their season so far, so I'm taking the Raiders, baby. In the other 4 or 5 slot, the Cardinals are taking on the 49ers. The Cardinals are such a weird team to judge. In some weeks, they go absolutely crazy. They dominate. Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. finding the end zone over and over again. They're putting up 20 plus. But then we see the last couple of weeks where they just can't move the ball downfield. They struggled against the Commanders, who are not special at all on defense. They struggled in the previous matchup against Detroit as well. Again, not a great defense. I never know what to expect with this team. In my opinion, they're overdue for a great offensive outing, but even then, I'm not sure if it's enough because they're playing the 49ers. It's a divisional rival, yes, but the Niners have had their number plenty of times recently. They're the significantly better team. They're getting healthier as well, so I just can't trust the Cardinals to win this game. Whenever they've played big games this season, they have almost always let me down, so I'm going with San Francisco. They're just the better team. They're the big brother, so to speak, and that should be all she wrote. Now for the 425 slots. First, the Packers are going into LA to play the Rams. And Green Bay, they were off to a shaky start in that matchup against the Vikings. Jordan Love was kind of shaking off the rust, if you will. But over time, they started to move the ball more effectively downfield. They put up a barrage of points in the fourth quarter. Jordan Love seems like he is ready to go again. He's thrown the ball downfield successfully. The ankle isn't bothering him all that much anymore. I think this Packers team just needed a week to get their bearings back together. They made a lot of bad mistakes against a good Vikings team, and I don't see that happening again against the Rams. LA's defense is absolutely horrendous, and the Packers should be able to make pretty short work of them. With the Rams still not being that healthy, with them being down their top 2 weapons at wide receiver, I don't see them keeping up with a very loaded Packers offense. They're only going to play better over time. We saw the same thing happen last year. Green Bay should be walking away with this W. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little closer than it should be, because Jordan Love didn't look all that great when it came to the turnovers. So maybe the Rams will have some opportunities to at least make it interesting, but Green Bay should be the favorites to win. And to close out the 4 o'clock games for the evening, the Giants are heading into Seattle to play the Seahawks. Man, oh man, as a Giants fan, I want to say they have a chance because they've been in a lot of games they've played this year, but when it comes down to executing, getting into the end zone, they've been so up and down with that. They always find a way to lose, and as I always say, that's what bad teams do. No matter how many good opportunities are given to them, they will throw it away. That's what the Giants are. Daniel Jones just can't generate any explosive plays. He can't throw the ball accurately downfield, and that's not going to fly against the Seahawks, against an offense that is bound to put up a lot of points against your poor secondary. We saw them put up a barrage against the Lions. You know they're pissed after losing that game, and they're going to take it out on the G-men, who they've had the number of multiple times in the last couple of seasons. I don't see any reason why this won't be the same as well. That Giants defense is getting worse. The Seahawks are better. Leonard Williams is going to maybe have some kind of revenge game against his old teammates. I'd expect the Seahawks to just outpace a Giants offense that you cannot trust to win. Walking into Sunday night, the Cowboys are taking on their historic rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's sad because this shouldn't be a 50-50 game. Dallas should be winning this game as the better team on paper. But as we've seen time and time again this year, this Cowboys team is significantly weaker than recent Dallas teams. And that's something the Steelers may be able to take advantage of. With a strong defense, they could make this game very interesting. We saw Dallas only put up a small handful of points against the Giants. The Giants were able to effectively control the clock, and the Steelers may be able to do that a lot better when it comes to their game plan, knowing that their defense is not only more reliable, but they can also actually move the ball downfield. Justin Fields put up over 300 yards against the Colts, and that Dallas secondary got exposed by Daniel Jones a lot. I think the Steelers team has what it takes to win this football game. When I watch Dallas play, they mostly feel flat. It's just not there. The same energy, the same level of power from their rosters, it's not there. And right now, they're dealing with some pretty big injuries. We're talking no DeMarcus Lawrence, and it seems like they could be preparing to play without Micah Parsons in this contest as well. The life of their defense, the only defense they have left, is going to be gone. And that Steelers offensive line isn't great, so that is huge news for them. I believe that they can run the ball more effectively than the Giants, absolutely destroy this Dallas team on the ground, and just keep the time of possession on their side, knowing how inconsistent the Dallas offense has been. I am picking the Steelers to win this football game. If Dallas were healthier, if they had Micah at full health, if they had DeMarcus Lawrence, I'd probably go their way because I'm a little worried about Justin Fields under pressure. But I think his life is going to be pretty easy in this one. They're going to get the looks they want, and they're going to edge out a close victory. To wrap up Week 5, the New Orleans Saints march into Arrowhead to play the Chiefs. Chiefs feel like the significantly better team, but as we've seen this entire season, every game has been uncomfortably close for this Kansas City team. And with new injuries piling up, with no Rashee Rice, with them being without Isaiah Pacheco as well, I'm a little worried they're going to struggle offensively, and that's going to lead to a situation where, again, they're sweating. The Super Bowl champions, the two-time defending champions, just playing a game that absolutely exhausts them and makes this beginning of the season a lot more stressful than you'd like it to be. This Saints team is scrappy. They've only lost some close games so far. You know they're angry after losing the last two, and I think they're going to give it their best effort and give this Chiefs team a real run for their money. Their defense is no joke. The Chiefs offense has to continue to evolve and change on short. This will be another big test for this Chiefs team, and I think they're going to come up short. I don't like how close all their games have been. This is unsustainable, and with some new injuries as well, it may cause a little bit more confusion, and I think they're going to lose a really close game to the New Orleans Saints. They're going to be the ones to end the Chiefs' undefeated season. It gives off similar vibes to last year where the Chiefs offense maybe has to refine their identity. Obviously this time it's injuries instead of a lack of talent, but the same principles apply where new guys have to step up. They can't rely as much on the run game as well. There could be some miscommunication issues, maybe some extra errors from Mahomes' part as he tries to force things, playing hero ball, and that's where the Saints could take advantage. They've shown me they can hang in there with top level teams, and they're overdue for a win. Derek Carr's overdue for a great day. Alvin Kamara as well. I think the Chiefs are in for a rude awakening in this one, and the Saints will get this W. I believe in the Saints team this year. They've shown me a lot of fight, they've shown me a lot of energy, and if it weren't for some awful execution, they probably would have beaten the Falcons pretty easily, but special teams and that pick six really screwed them over. I think they clean it up, and they're ready for this game against the Chiefs. Give me the Saints in the upset of the week. And that'll do it for my breakdown and predictions of Week 5. The Lions, Titans, Eagles, and Chargers are all on bye, so we only have 14 games to look forward to this weekend, but there should be some good ones in the mix. Let me know your thoughts about these matches and who you have winning down in the comments below. Let me know what your best bets are for the week. And if you enjoyed this video and my style of content, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more weekly NFL content. Peace.